dozens of books on effective businesses and leadership, but the bottom line, they all say, a business should stick to its core values and core product and what it does best. And if you take a look at what the core mission is, the state of California, it's delivering high quality education. It's delivering health and human services product. It's it's running your public safety correction. And there's certain core missions that we have. And that's what we should be focusing on, and we should then, those other areas where we can buy expertise, because that's not part of our core mission or our core area of expertise, and we should rely on that. And as you know, I'm a big supporter of cloud computing, and I think we're all going to be there. It's just a matter of time and how quickly we move to it. One comment I had written down with the prior panel that I didn't bring up, but when we talk about whether or not you've got 3-digit codes or 5-digit codes or whatever, I mean, to the extent that we have better vertical integration and consistency within agencies and departments on down, I think it's going to make changing in the future that much easier, because I don't think things are going to slow down. I think they're going to speed up. I also, we are working now on planning a session in January on the use of apps in government, because I do think there are a number of different opportunities, and whether I don't think we're going to be able to just make a full migration, but the question is, I think when we do get involved in major procurements, that's another question we should be asking ourselves in terms of who it is, the people we serve, and how we're able to provide information in a more efficient manner. So. Thank you, and I'm happy to work with you, by the way, on the sunsetting and extending that, so we can.
We welcome that. Thank you so much.
Now we have time for any kind of input, testimony from the public. You can sit at the table if you want. That makes it easier.
Hi, my name's Stephanie. I'm with SEIU Local 1000, and we actually represent all of the IT professionals in the bargaining units to the in state government. So we just wanted to comment that our members are very interested in how the process works. They're all the ones who are actually participating in the process. We just wanted to comment on a couple of things. One, to let you know that some departments actually do contract out to have people develop their RFPs and things like that. So it isn't just state employees who are doing those processes. So you should be aware of that. Additionally, it's not just, we have qualified people who are doing work on the state employee level, but that there are also appointments in the director positions and deputy directors and things like that who may not have any qualifications on IT who are directing these projects. So there should be some acknowledgement that there are qualified people who do the work in state service, the civil service, but that there are people who are highly involved in these projects who can have no background at all in IT directing the projects. So just as a point of reference, so you can understand sort of some of the confusion maybe sometimes on why things don't always are clear. So we look forward to continuing to work with you on your the select committee, because we're very interested.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. I'm glad you came to testify today, because a lot of times we talk about these developments and what we're doing. I always think about the end users and the people who are actually going to be using these systems. And I personally feel that a lot of times we put a lot of energy into the procurement, trying to define what we're going to do, purchase, and then when it gets to the end users, a lot of time, and hopefully their input has been taken into consideration, but the actual training to get the full value of these programs, because I've seen so many times they'll have a tremendous capacity, but the staff only scratch the surface because the training, ongoing training, and having, a train the trainer program sometimes gets neglected. And I feel like a lot of times we don't get the full value of our programs because the end users, well, hopefully they're going to be involved in the design of the systems, but also the ongoing training they need to really get the maximum value for the public and for their own satisfaction as workers.
And many of the contracts that are developed have ongoing, because it should be the state employees who are maintaining these systems on an ongoing basis. It shouldn't be a contractor who's continued to do that, because we shouldn't be paying for that. That's why we have state employees. And so we want to make sure that those contracts are fulfilled and that knowledge is passed on to the state employees. And so that's sort of the purpose of why we have IT professionals in state government. So our members are very interested in continuing to work with you.
Great. I would just echo some of Ray Allen's comments in terms of the need to involve people at all levels up front in defining what the needs are, and then also in making sure that when we take a look at the cost of a project, that we're including in that cost the any new equipment that the employees need, any training that they need, so we don't just hand you something and say, here, make it work, but we make sure that the ingredients for success for a project go from the very beginning to the time it's implemented. So
yeah, and that there are many highly skilled state employees, and we just want to make sure that everybody's looking at what we actually have in state government as opposed to looking outside before they do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dave Busser. I head up corporate development for ESRI. ESRI is actually the world's leader in geographic information systems technology. And for the past 20 years, we have been the principal provider of GIS to the state of California. Prior to joining ESRI 9 years ago, I spent 20 years in IT. I was a chief information officer, and I've run projects in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and I do feel your pain. I would argue that technology is advancing so quickly that some of them, frankly, I think that what Secretary Ramos spoke of and Director Klaas spoke of are absolutely methods that have been proven successful in the past, but in very large projects, especially given the evolution of technology, and also my personal belief and my experience that users rarely understand what their requirements are until you help them to understand their requirements through prototypes and proofs of concept and so forth. Can be very challenging. But I'm here to talk about a simpler problem, which is the acquisition of commercial off-the-shelf software and services, which is what ESRI provides. Now, we at ESRI believe we've done everything we can to work with the state agencies to try to adhere to the procurement requirements and to work within the procurement process. But we think despite these efforts, it's honestly been very, very difficult for us. We have found the process onerous, inconsistent, and we honestly feel that it frequently does not serve the needs of the state agencies and the employees of the state that rely on our technology. Now, the principal procurement vehicle that we've been asked to use is the California Multiple Award Schedule, or CMAS, and that contract vehicle is based on the General Services Administration schedule that ESRI has with the federal government, who is our largest customer. Now, the GSA schedule was put in place by the federal government to ensure that federal departments were able to get access to high-quality goods and services at a low price and in a cost-effective manner and in a timely manner. It's our understanding that the state chose to base CMAS on GSA so that they would have access to the same pricing that our best customer does. However, what we've also found is the state does not necessarily want to be bound to the same licensing terms and conditions that the federal government has agreed to. Technology evolves. Useful technology, if it's to remain useful, has to continue to evolve. And we have to modify our licensing terms as our products change. And when we adapt these terms, we have to submit them to the federal government. They review them. They approve them. Sometimes they want to negotiate some of these terms. But the state will not accept the terms that have been agreed to by the federal contracting officer. And even though we indicate that the standard state terms do take precedence over the federal terms, and that both federal and state take precedence over the commercial terms, they still will not accept them until they've done their own review. And they tell us that they don't have time to do the review. So as a result, state employees today cannot buy Esri technology on this schedule. As a result, we have worked to come up with other methods of procurement, working with the state agencies. And what we've done is now when we get a request, we issue a quote. It indicates Esri's standard licensing terms, but also indicates that, once again, the state licensing terms take precedence over our licensing terms. Well, sometimes, in some cases, this will work fine. We'll submit this, and it'll be approved, and we'll fulfill the order. Other times, we will submit precisely the same terms, precisely the same language, and objections will be raised, and there are months of delay being able to fulfill the orders. And it's very difficult for us to understand why it works sometimes and why it doesn't, which is why I say that we really do run into problems with consistency. So these many challenges, they result in, most importantly, the fact that state employees don't have access to our technology when they need it, but it also delays state GIS projects. It certainly results in lost time and cost. And also it can result in the interruption in technical services that are required by the state. We are very interested in working with the state. All 50 states are our customers. Thousands of local governments are our customers. We have not just the United States, but around the world. So we have quite a lot of experience. And for what it's worth, California is not the only government organization that we work with that we sometimes have challenges with. But I will say that these are probably among the most difficult for us. So what we would suggest is that that you give consideration to a few things. One is to, again, and I know that this was discussed today and you're working on it, but the idea of trying to establish a consistent, functional, fair practice that works every time and that can be easily implemented by Esri and by the state. This is a nuisance for Esri, but we aren't, just so we're clear, we're not the victim here. We really believe that the victims are the state employees and honestly the California taxpayers that are depending on the employees' services. I would ask you to consider relying on the U.S. government's review and approval of the terms that you are basing your CMAS contract on, especially given the fact that your standard licensing terms take precedence over the federal terms. We would ask that you consistently apply CMAS guidelines. One of the issues we run into is that we're not allowed to offer maintenance, software maintenance, or software-related services under CMAS, but the CMAS guidelines clearly say that that's an acceptable practice. And so we've never been able to really understand why we can't do that. And last thing I would say, I guess, is that commercial off-the-shelf software has many benefits. Theoretically, it's been designed with best practices in mind. We certainly believe that ours has. And it's frequently a very effective alternative to building something in-house. But when you buy commercial off-the-shelf software, it comes with a certain number of business terms, licensing terms that are associated with it in the case of software. And we really believe that when you make a purchasing decision, part of the criteria you're using are the terms associated with that commercial product. So, and again, to the extent that Esri can help in this process, it would be, of course, our great pleasure. And I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Well, it's not too bad. We went only about 20 minutes over, but I want to, first of all, thank everyone who testified today for taking time out of your busy schedules, both from those in-state, from our different agencies, as well as Carol coming up and sharing all of your thoughts with us. And I also, as some of Alan suggested, I hope this is the beginning of a longer conversation, because I think all of us, especially those of us who live in California and have been here for many years and love the state, want to do all we can to embrace technology to make the state more efficient, and in doing so, hopefully free up dollars so we can spend those dollars on programs that we value. So I look forward to the conversation continuing.
Yes, and for those who gave some testimony, I guess I'm making the assumption that there's going to be dialogue to work out the problems, and if they're not, I know that our offices would be interested in helping in any way possible. But as we discussed extensively today, communication is the key, and so I would just encourage those folks, especially the last speaker who talked about the concerns, that there be some dialogue with DGS and our technology agency to try to work those issues out. So thank you.
Thank you.